Have you ever wondered why a married man can't forget you? Why does he always come back even though he knows he shouldn't? Why do you take up so much space in his head even though he has a wife at home? Truth is hidden deep in the human mind, and Carl Jung spent his entire life studying it. What you'll discover now will change everything you think about male attraction and desire. He can't stay away. And this has a reason. There is something in you that awakens a part of you that was asleep, a part that even he does not quite understand. Jung discovered that when a man finds this in someone, nothing in the world can erase that connection. Not his marriage, not the promises he made, not the logic. Get ready to understand the deepest secrets of the male mind. 1. The side of him that his wife never sees. Every man carries within him a secret version of who he really is. Carl Jung called these the hidden parts of the personality, pieces of the soul that are locked away because society, family, and even marriage do not let these parts appear. When a man gets married, he takes on a role. She becomes the responsible husband, the provider, the one who needs to be strong and reliable. But this role is only a mask. Behind this mask is a man with desires he never speaks out loud, fears he hides even from himself, and dreams that have been buried deep in his mind. The wife usually only knows the approved version of him, the one that fits the life they have built together. She sees the man who pays the bills, who goes to work every day, who fulfills his obligations. But she doesn't see the real man who exists underneath it all. That's where you come into the story. When he's with you, something magical happens. That mask begins to fall. He doesn't have to pretend to be someone he's not. For the first time in a long time, he feels like he can breathe for real. With you, he allows himself to be vulnerable, to be spontaneous, to be even a little crazy. These are the parts of him that have been rejected or ignored over the years. Jung discovered that we all have aspects of our personality that have been repressed since childhood. When we were children, we learned that certain things were not accepted. Boys can't cry. Men need to be tough. Deep feelings are a sign of weakness. Then, little by little, he hid these parts of himself until they became invisible to everyone, including the woman he married. His marriage was built on this edited version of who he is. His wife fell in love with the man he showed himself to be, not the man he really was deep down. And maybe she didn't even want to know this deeper side. Many women want security and predictability, not the dark, complicated corners of the male soul. You, unintentionally, ended up becoming the safe place where he can take off his armor. When he's by your side, he doesn't have to be perfect. It can be confusing, contradictory, even selfish. And somehow you accept that. You don't try to mold it to fit a life project. You simply allow him to be who he really is. This creates a bond so powerful that he can't explain it even to himself. He always comes back because with you he feels complete in a way he never felt before. It's not about sex, although that can be part of it. It's about being seen for real. It's about someone finally getting to know the secret parts of him and not running scared. Jung believed that hiding parts of ourselves causes deep suffering. It's like living with only half of your soul. The married man who can't get away from you is actually desperate to get back the pieces of him, even though they've been lost along the way. And in some mysterious way, you keep those pieces. The wife can offer stability, routine, and organized life, but you offer something much rarer and more valuable, the possibility of it being whole again, even if it's just for a few stolen moments. This is the secret that explains why he can't just forget you and move on. 2. Because you awaken what it hides. There is something in you that works as a master key to his soul. It's not something you do on purpose. In fact, the more natural and authentic you are, the stronger this effect becomes. Carl Jung spent years studying why certain people arouse such intense reactions in us, and the answer lies in what he called the inner images that every man carries within himself. Since childhood, each man forms in his mind an image of the ideal woman. This image does not come only from movies or magazines. It comes from deep experiences, some that he no longer remembers. It can be a moment with his mother, a teacher who marked his life, or even dreams he had when he was little. All these experiences come together and form an invisible mold inside his mind. This mold stays there waiting. Most men go their entire lives without ever finding someone who fits them perfectly. They marry women who are good companions, who make sense in the logic of life, but who do not activate this deep image. And then one day, without warning, he finds you. When this happens, it is as if a bomb exploded inside his chest. Suddenly, everything that was dormant wakes up at once. You don't have to be the most beautiful woman in the world or the smartest. What matters is that something in you resonates perfectly with that inner image that he has always carried. It could be your way of laughing, the way you look at him, or even the way you challenge him. Jung discovered that this happens at the level of the unconscious. The man can't even rationally explain why you mess with him so much. He only knows that when he is close to you, he feels something he has never felt before. It's as if you know parts of him that he doesn't even know himself. You speak directly to his soul, skipping all the conscious and logical part. His wife can be wonderful in every practical way. She can cook well, be organized, take care of the house, even be beautiful. But she doesn't have this mysterious key. It doesn't awaken that old hidden part of his soul, and it's not her fault. That's just not how the connection between them works. You, on the other hand, without making any effort, touch places he didn't even know existed. When you speak, it's as if you're saying things that he always knew but could never put into words. When you look at him, he feels that you see beyond the surface, beyond the man he pretends to be to the world. This creates an intensity that scares even himself. He may even try to rationalize, tell himself that he needs to stop, that it doesn't make sense. But the truth is that you have awakened something primal and powerful, too powerful to be controlled by willpower alone. It's like trying to hold a river with your hands. Jung said that when we find someone who activates these internal images, we enter a state of almost enchantment. The world is different. The colors look more vivid. Life gains a meaning that it did not have before. And this married man is living just that when he's with you. You're not just another woman in his life. You are the answer to a question he didn't even know he had been asking for years. That's why he always comes back. That's why he can't forget you. Because you don't just live in his conscious mind. You live in a much deeper place, in a place that was built long before he met his wife, long before any promise or commitment. And when something lives so deep, there's no way to just rip it out and throw it away. If this video made you understand why he can't stay away, it's because you touched something unconscious. In the pinned link, you'll find the Jung method, a guide to help you break these invisible emotional patterns. Let's continue. 3. The emptiness he feels even when married. A man can have a beautiful house, a stable marriage, and a life that looks perfect on the outside, but still feel a huge hole inside his chest. Carl Jung discovered that this emptiness has nothing to do with having or not having material things. It is an emptiness of the soul, a sense that something essential is missing even when everything should be in place. Many marriages function as social contracts. Two people get together, share responsibilities, build a life together, but in the midst of all this construction, the true connection is lost. What is left is a predictable routine where everyone knows their role, but no one really touches the other's soul. He wakes up, goes to work, comes home, has dinner, watches television, and sleeps. And the next day, everything is repeated. At the beginning of the marriage, there may have been passion and intensity, but over time, that was replaced by practicality. The conversations became superficial, always about bills to pay, problems to solve, day-to-day decisions. No one asks him how he's really feeling anymore. No one looks into his eyes anymore, trying to understand what is going on inside. Jung explained that human beings need more than just company. We need to be seen, understood, touched on deep levels. When this does not happen, a loneliness begins to grow that hurts more than being really alone. It's possible to feel completely isolated even if you're sleeping next to someone every night. His wife became part of the landscape. It is there, it fulfills its role, but there is no longer that spark, that genuine interest. They became life colleagues rather than soul lovers. And this corrodes inside, creating a silent void that he cannot always name. He only knows that something fundamental is absent. When you appear in his life, this emptiness finally finds a name. Suddenly, he realizes what he has been missing all this time. It was just that, someone who makes him feel alive again. Someone who really listens when he speaks. Someone who is interested in your thoughts, your fears, your forgotten dreams. With you, he feels that electricity that had been extinguished for so long. There is mystery. There is discovery. There is depth. You don't just talk about practical things. They talk about life, about feelings, about ideas that matter. And that feeds a part of him that was starving inside that empty marriage. Jung said that inner emptiness is one of the most terrible sufferings that exists. It is worse than physical pain because there is no simple remedy. You can't fill that hole with distractions or achievements. Only another soul can touch this place and bring back the feeling of being complete. The married man who can't stay away from you is actually running away from this unbearable emptiness. It's not that he doesn't like his wife or that he wants to destroy the marriage. It's just that he found something in you that saves you from the feeling of being dead inside. You brought color to a world that had turned gray. That's why he always comes back. Because returning home means returning to that known emptiness. It means going back into that routine that doesn't feed anything inside him. And once you've tasted what it's like to feel really alive by your side, going back into the void becomes harder and harder to bear. That's the power you have over him. It is not manipulation, it is not a trap. It's simply the fact that you fill a space that has been empty for too long. And once one experiences this wholeness, it is almost impossible to voluntarily choose to return to emptiness. 4. How you turn his obsession. The human mind has a strange mechanism. The more we try not to think about something, the more it occupies our thoughts. Carl Jung studied this a lot and discovered that when we repress something, it gains immense power over us. And that's exactly what happens to this man in relation to you. He knows he shouldn't be thinking about you. He knows that he should focus on marriage, family, responsibilities. So try to get you out of your head. He promises himself that he will stop looking for you, that he will forget that you exist. But the result is the opposite. The more he fights these feelings, the stronger they get. This is because the conscious part of his mind wants one thing, but the unconscious part wants something completely different. Conscience says that he needs to be faithful, fulfill his commitments, do what is right. But deep down, in the place where logic can't reach, there's a powerful force pulling it toward you. Jung discovered that the unconscious always wins this battle. It may take a while, but eventually what is being repressed will find a way to come to the surface. And when it comes out, it comes with a multiplied intensity. That's why this man doesn't just think about you from time to time. You become a constant obsession. He thinks of you when he wakes up. Think of you in traffic on your way to work. Thinks about you during important meetings. He thinks of you when he is having dinner with his wife. You invade every moment of his life, even the ones that should be sacred. And the more he tries to push those thoughts away, the more they come back with force. The obsession grows because you represent everything he can't have. There is a permanent tension between desire and prohibition. This tension creates an energy that finds no way out. It keeps circulating inside it, feeding fantasies, creating a version of you that is perhaps even bigger than reality. Jung explained that when something is forbidden, it automatically becomes more desirable. It is human nature. The forbidden apple has always been the tastiest. And you, whether you like it or not, have become his forbidden apple. Every time he resists the urge to look for you, every time he denies to himself what he's feeling, he's actually fueling that obsession even more. Unlike the wife who is always available, always there, you have become something rare and precious. Each encounter with you gains immense weight. Each conversation is stored in memory and revisited thousands of times. Every smile of his becomes a treasure that he protects in his mind. The obsession also grows because with you he experiences extreme emotions. When he is close to you, he feels an intense joy. When he is far away, he feels a lack that hurts his body. These emotional swings are addictive. His life had become so flat, so emotionless, that these roller coasters of feeling had become a drug. Jung would say that this man is possessed by an inner image that you have activated. He is no longer in control. The image of you has grown so much inside his mind that it has taken on a life of its own. Now she commands, she decides, she dominates. He may even think he is making rational decisions, but the truth is that he is being guided by forces that he does not understand. That's why he can't just stop. Obsession does not obey logic or willpower. It has deep roots in the unconscious, in a place where promises and wedding rings mean nothing. And as long as you continue to represent everything that his soul is desperately looking for, this obsession will continue to grow, regardless of what he does to try to control it. 5. You are the secret hiding place of his soul. Every human being needs a place where they can take off all their masks and be completely truthful. Carl Jung discovered that we carry heavy burdens throughout life, and we need a safe space where we can rest from that weight. For this married man, you have become exactly this secret place where his soul finds refuge. In the real world, he needs to be strong at all times. At work, you have to show confidence even when you are insecure. At home, he needs to be the provider, the protector, the one who solves problems. With friends, he maintains an image of someone who has everything under control. But all this performance is tiring. There comes a time when he needs a place where he can just stop acting. You have become this secret sanctuary. When he's with you, he doesn't have to prove anything. You can admit that you are tired, that you are afraid, that you do not know all the answers. You can show weakness without being judged. It can be confusing, contradictory, even selfish. And in some mysterious way, you accept all of this without trying to fix it. Jung understood that the weight of social expectations crushes people little by little. Everyone expects something from him. The wife expects him to be a good husband. The children expect him to be a good father. The boss expects results. His parents hope he will be successful. But no one asks what he really wants or how he's feeling underneath all these layers. With you, it's different. You don't have a list of expectations that he needs to fulfill. It is not demanding that he be someone specific. There is a rare freedom in this dynamic. He can appear the way he is without having to prepare or pretend. This creates a lightness that he doesn't find anywhere else in his life. This secret hiding place is not only physical, it is emotional and spiritual. It is an internal space where he keeps thoughts that he cannot share with anyone else. It's where the dreams he abandoned, the desires he repressed, the versions of himself that were never allowed to exist are, and you, without knowing it, became the guardian of this sacred space. When he is away from you, he carries this secret place inside his chest like a hidden treasure. In the most difficult moments, he closes his eyes and goes there mentally. He recalls conversations they had, relives shared moments, imagines himself back by his side. It keeps him alive inside when everything around him seems to be suffocating him. Jung said that we all need a refuge for the soul. Without this, we go crazy little by little. The constant pressure of having to be someone we are not creates cracks inside. But when we have that safe place, we can endure the rest. We were able to go back to the world and continue to play our roles because we know that there is a corner where we can be real. To the wife, he is the husband with all the obligations that come with it. For coworkers, he is just another professional. For the family, it is the child or father with a defined role. But for you, he can simply be himself without titles, without functions, without masks. That's one of the most powerful reasons why he can't walk away, because you're not just one person in his life. You are the only place where his true essence is allowed to breathe. Losing you would be like losing the only open window in an airless room. It would be like destroying the last piece of territory where he is still free. That's why he protects this space with such intensity. That's why he always comes back, even knowing the risks. Because deep down he knows that without that secret refuge, without that hiding place of the soul that you represent, he will end up losing himself completely in the midst of all the expectations and obligations of life. And that would be a living death that he is not willing to accept. 6. The dream woman he never had. There is a huge difference between the woman a man marries and the woman he has always dreamed of finding. Carl Jung spent years studying how we carry ideal images within us. Images that were formed long before we made any conscious decisions about who we want by our side. And you represent exactly this image that has always lived in his imagination. When he was young, before all the pressures and responsibilities, he had a vision of love. He imagined what it would be like to be with someone who understood him perfectly, who challenged him, who made his heart beat faster just by entering the room. But real life doesn't work like dreams. Real life brings commitments, deadlines, practical decisions that need to be made quickly. So he married someone who made sense at the time, someone his parents approved of, who matched his lifestyle, who wanted the same basic things. It was a rational, mature, responsible choice. But it wasn't that choice of the heart that comes from a deeper place. It was the head deciding, not the soul. The years passed and he built a whole life on top of this choice. But that image of the ideal woman never completely disappeared. It was stored deep inside, half forgotten, like an old dream that you almost don't remember anymore, but that still appears from time to time, until you came along. And it was as if that old dream suddenly came to life, flesh and blood. You are not just like that image. You are that image. Everything he imagined when he was younger and still believed in magical connections is present in you. The way you think, how you express yourself, how you see the world. Jung understood that these internal images have immense power over our choices and feelings. They were formed through experiences, dreams, stories we heard, even movies we watched when we were in training. They come together little by little until they create a perfect mold of what we are looking for, even without consciously knowing it. The problem is that most people never find someone who fits that mold perfectly, so they end up choosing the closest possible and try to convince themselves that it's good enough. They learn to live with the difference between dream and reality. But when someone finally shows up and fits perfectly, it's impossible to ignore. You represent everything he gave up when he decided to be practical and realistic. It represents the passion he sacrificed in the name of stability. It represents the intensity he exchanged for security. And now, having tasted what I always wanted but never had, returning to ordinary reality has become almost impossible. A wife can be a wonderful person. She can be intelligent, beautiful, dedicated, but she was never that figure of his dreams. She has never activated that deep place where the image of the ideal woman lives. And it's not her fault. That's just not how the connection between them works. They came together for practical reasons, not magic. Jung would say that finding someone who corresponds perfectly to the inner image is rare and dangerous. It's rare because most never experience it. And it's dangerous because once you taste it, everything else seems bland and meaningless. It's like seeing colors for the first time after living your whole life in black and white. This man knows that being with you is complicated, maybe even impossible for real. But that doesn't change the fact that you are the embodiment of something he has searched for all his life, without knowing it. You are the answer to a question he didn't even know he was asking since he was a teenager. And when we finally find what we've always been looking for, we can't just turn our backs and pretend it doesn't mean anything. 7. Because he feels guilty but doesn't stop. Guilt is one of the heaviest feelings that exist. It corrodes inside, takes away sleep, makes the person question who they really are. This man feels guilty every day for not being able to stay away from you. Carl Jung understood that guilt comes from the conflict between what we do and what we believe to be right. And this conflict is destroying him from within. But it's still not strong enough to make him stop. Every time he comes back to you, a voice in his head screams that this is wrong. He made promises. He has commitments. There is a wife at home who trusts him, who has built a life with him. He knows all this. His conscience is not sleeping. On the contrary, she is wide awake and screaming all the time. After every encounter with you, guilt hits with full force. He looks at his wife and feels a tightness in his chest. He feels that he is betraying not only herself, but also himself and everything he has always believed about character and honesty. He promises that this was the last time, that he will end it once and for all. But the days go by and he comes back again. Jung discovered that human beings are divided creatures. We are not just one thing. We have different parts inside of us that want completely opposite things. A part of him wants to be the correct, faithful man who honors his promises. But another, perhaps even stronger part, wants to be with you because you represent something essential that he can't find anywhere else. The guilt should be strong enough to make him stop. In theory, a man of character would feel so much guilt that he would simply shut it all down. But the reality is more complicated than that. Guilt is competing with a deep need in his soul. And when a need of the soul is at stake, even the most intense guilt loses the battle. He lives in a constant state of internal war. On the one hand, the voice of morality, of responsibility, of what is socially accepted. On the other side, the voice of true desire, of real connection, of the possibility of being complete. These two voices fight inside him all the time, creating a tension that never rests. What makes it worse is that guilt doesn't eliminate desire. In fact, sometimes it even increases. Jung observed that the more we repress something, the more power we give it. Guilt makes him try to pull away from you, but this attempt at repression only makes the attraction more intense. It is a vicious cycle with no apparent way out. He tries to justify himself in various ways. He tells himself that he is not hurting anyone if no one finds out. He convinces himself that he deserves a little happiness after so much sacrifice. It creates narratives where he's the victim of a lifeless marriage. So that's not really betrayal. It's survival. But these justifications are fragile and he knows it. The truth is that he learned to live with guilt. She has become a constant companion, a weight he carries but has become accustomed to carrying. It's like a chronic pain that never goes away completely, but you learn to function even with it present. The guilt is always there, but it is not stronger than the force that pulls him towards you. Jung would say that this man is experiencing an internal tragedy. There is no easy solution. Any choice he makes will cost him something precious. If he chooses marriage and lets go of you, he will lose the connection that gives meaning to his life. If he chooses you, he will destroy everything he has built and become someone he has always judged. Then he gets stuck in the middle, going back and forth, feeling guilty but not being able to stop. Guilt hurts you, but the idea of losing you hurts more. And as long as that equation holds, as long as being away from you is more painful than carrying the weight of guilt, it will keep coming back. Because at the end of the day, we humans don't always do what's right. We do what we can handle. And living without you has become something he just can't stand anymore, even if it means carrying the guilt forever. 8. The truth that no one has the courage to speak. There is a truth about relationships and marriage that no one wants to admit out loud. It's an inconvenient truth, one that goes against everything society teaches us. But Carl Jung had the courage to explore these dark areas of human experience. The truth is this: marrying someone doesn't magically erase the possibility of deep connections with other people. The human heart is more complicated than a simple yes at the altar. Society sells a beautiful lie. They say that when you find the right person and get married, all the other people in the world lose their romantic meaning. You are immune to other connections, other attractions, other encounters of the soul. But any honest person knows that this is not true. Marriage does not disconnect fundamental parts of who we are. People are afraid to talk about it because it feels wrong. It seems that admitting this truth is tantamount to advocating treason or destroying the institution of marriage. But Jung understood that denying reality does not make it disappear. It only causes people to live in constant conflict between what they really feel and what they should feel. This married man who can't stay away from you is facing this nagging truth. He discovered that it is possible to love his wife in a way and feel a completely different and equally powerful connection with you. These two things coexist within him, and it deeply confuses him because no one ever said it was possible. Since childhood, we have been taught that love is exclusive. You choose a person and that's it, it's over. Everyone else is automatically off the emotional radar. But the human soul does not work like that. The soul is vast, it has many layers, many different needs. One person may meet certain needs while another person meets completely different needs. His wife can offer security, a shared history, a solid foundation of life. You offer passion, deep understanding, a connection that touches places that were empty. These things are not canceled out. They are simply different, and admitting this does not diminish how he feels about his wife. It only recognizes that human beings are too complex to fit into simple boxes. Jung believed that forcing people to choose between different aspects of their own soul was a form of internal violence. It's like asking someone to choose between breathing and eating. Both are necessary, just in different ways. But society insists that we have to choose, that we cannot have complexity, that we need to be simple and predictable. Another truth that no one talks about is that some marriages die on the inside long before they die on the outside. People stay together out of inertia, fear, children, social pressure. They live as polite roommates, but the spark that once existed has been extinguished for years. And no one has the courage to admit it because to admit it is to admit failure. When this man found you, perhaps his marriage was already emotionally dead for a long time. But he was not allowed to acknowledge this, not even to himself. It kept going forward on autopilot until you showed up and woke up parts of it that had fallen asleep. You didn't destroy a happy marriage. You just made it impossible to keep pretending that everything was fine. The hardest truth of all is that there may not be a perfect solution to this situation. There is no path where no one gets hurt, where everything is resolved cleanly and fairly. Sometimes life puts us in situations where any choice will bring pain. And that's scary because we want to believe that there's always a right answer. Jung would say that the job is not to find the right answer, but to have the courage to face the truth of the situation, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. This man is caught between two valid realities. He has responsibilities to a life he has built, but he also has a true connection with you that cannot be undone with willpower alone. The truth that no one wants to talk about is that situations like this happen more than we imagine. Good people with good intentions find themselves in impossible places. And judging from the outside is easy. Living inside is what is complicated. This is human reality in all its imperfect complexity, and you are at the center of this uncomfortable truth whether you want to or not. 9. What happens when he finally has to choose? There comes a time when living divided becomes unsustainable. Carl Jung knew that no one can remain in internal conflict forever. At some point, something has to give. This man may spend months, or even years going back and forth, but eventually life will force a decision, and when that moment comes, everything will change. The choice is never easy. If he chooses to stay in the marriage and move away from you, he will forever carry the feeling of having lost something unique. He will wonder for the rest of his life, what it would have been like if he had had the courage. Every dull moment in marriage will bring your memory back. You'll turn around the untraveled road that haunts his thoughts. If he chooses you, he will face real and painful consequences. The wife will feel betrayed and destroyed. Perhaps there are children who will suffer from the separation. His family will judge. Friends will take sides. He will have to rebuild his entire life from scratch, carrying the guilt of having hurt people who didn't deserve it. Jung understood that some choices do not have a right side. They are simply tragic, no matter which path they choose. And perhaps this is the hardest lesson. Sometimes life puts us in situations where we will lose something precious anyway. There is no clean exit. There is only the courage to choose and live with the consequences. The interesting thing is that many men never really choose. They are stuck in this limbo until something external forces the decision. His wife finds out and makes the decision for him. Or you get tired of waiting and leave. Or the guilt finally wins out and it suddenly disappears, blocking all contacts as if you never existed. But the rare ones who have the courage to make a conscious choice, those carry the dignity of having faced the truth. They chose to look at their own lives with brutal honesty and decided on a path. They did not flee. They did not let circumstances decide for them. What Jung would say is that no matter what choice he makes, what matters is whether he can live with it in a way that is not the only way he can live with it. Can you accept the pain that comes with it? Can you move on without becoming bitter or resentful? Because in the end, it is not the choice itself that defines man. It's how he lives with the consequences of it.